limiting function of our teams for the longest time has been the speed of engineering. Over the next 10 years, going to accelerate by 5 and then 10x more. What's going to set up is a conflict. If the product management and design doesn't accelerate, it's going to log jam on the capacity to build. If the go-to-market doesn't accelerate, it's going to log jam on the capacity to build. So this is an inversion of a problem we used to have. Over the next 5 to 10 years, most teams in the economy have to figure out how to impedance match these 3 levers for growth.
Welcome to LaunchPod, the show from LogRocket, where we sit down with top product and digital leaders. Today, we've got something special for you. Normally, you'd have to join us in person at one of the dinners we host for product leaders to hear this talk from Oji Udezue, but the response has been so great, we had to bring him onto the show again. Oji has previously held product leadership roles at Typeform, Twitter, Calendly, and Atlassian. Today, he's joining us to share a major problem in product delivery that he's seeing as AI adoption increases across teams. In this episode, we discuss the 3-speed problem, as Oji calls it, how AI will bring about a 10x increase in engineering velocity, but where does that leave product management and go-to-market teams if they can't keep up? Why AI is a BS term, as it's really 5 new and distinct capabilities, and how to use those as a framework for smarter product strategy, and how his shipyard model for product teams will ensure you keep up and thrive, even as AI reshapes how we build software. So here's our episode with Oji Udezue. All right, Oji, what's up, man? Good to have you back to the show. How you doing?
Thanks for having me back. I feel like I'm getting up there in terms of repeats.
It's been about a year since you've been on the show, but I saw you last week down in Austin and Dallas. So we're getting a lot of quality time lately.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not tired of your face yet.
Not yet, hopefully. So for folks joining us who weren't here last year, right? You're, just to give a quick background, you've been everywhere. You were product Microsoft, you were at Atlassian, Calendly, Typeform, you were at Twitter for a little bit. Maybe just give the folks the 90-second TLDR on who Oji is. We can go from there.
So folks at home, my name is Oji Udezue. I've been a product manager for 25 years, a product marketer for like 2 or 3 years, dabbled in sales enablement and different parts of technology, industry, corporate value creation machine. I'm mostly a product manager though, and for the last 7 years, I've been head of product to chief product officer, Atlassian, Calendly, Typeform, Twitter. And lately, I've been spending my time in the global south, helping build capacity for building technology companies in Nigeria, in Nairobi, in Kigali, in India. And I've also been working on building a venture fund to invest in the great replacement of artificial intelligence B2B SaaS. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. Pretty busy.
And on top of all that, you've been flying around the US with me periodically, talking to product leaders in all sorts of different cities. So a year ago, we had you on to talk about the book that you and Esne, your wife, wrote called Building Rocket Ships, about building great high-performing product teams. We knew how much AI was going to disrupt this function over the ensuing year, but who could know exactly what it was going to do? That's what we're going to talk about today. Before we jump into it, right, we're going to talk about the 3-speed problem that you've brought up, about how AI has really caused speed increases across the board, but has not hit every team the same, right? Engineers, clearly, they have Cursor or Windsurf or whatever they're using. It's changed their velocity probably a lot more than, go-to-market teams or product teams. But maybe first, let's speed run building rocket ship. Let's fly through what's the shipyard model, what's sharp problems, What does that all mean?
The book is called Building Rocket Ships, and it's a collective 50 plus years of experience building hard-hitting, high-growth technology companies. Some of them are the ones I've mentioned. What is in there was head of new products at Time Inc., head of data and AI at Procore, at WP Engine. She's worked in hidden companies that are still high growth and doing amazing things. And so collaborating on that meant that we had a lot of perspective on all those 50 years. Now, she's a product professional, product executive like me. So we have a really good partnership and thinking about it. And for those who are paying attention, the book is actually pretty cool. You can get it on Amazon, but there's a digital version with lots of trackable content that you can use to make it part of your work life instead of just reading a book. The main things we sought to do in book 1 was about the fundamentals of product management, everything from how to pick a sharp problem, how to think about user experience, how to think about things like virality and design, and all the way to pricing, which is like right there at the top of like specialized product management skills that you have to share with marketing and sometimes with sales. And then book 2 is about how to lead teams that are really good at this stuff, right? How to think of product strategy, how to think of product execution, how to think of bringing everyone in the company together. So we started out talking about the sharp problems. And this is the fact that we noticed that contrary to a lot of tech wisdom, the most important thing to success is picking the right problem, because the right problems are forgiving. And really this centers around optimizing the 2 forces of value. You either make something like 5 to 10x cheaper, or you make it 5 to 10x better. Sometimes we use words like 3 to 5x, but 5 to 10x gives you the kind of ambition you should be shooting for. And so if you can find a workflow that is valuable, high frequency for your customers, and you can make it 5 times better, you're going to create value. And even when you make mistakes, the market will be forgiving of you. If you don't pick a sharp problem in a high frequency quadrant, mistakes like running out of cash for a day or a week, whatever, you're just dead in the water. The other thing we talk about is shipyard teams. You have to think carefully about the mix and autonomy of the teams you use to execute. So we identify like 6 skill sets, not people, not actual individual people, 6 skill sets that are required to do thinking and shipping and go to market, product management, engineering. Product manager is literally like, why are we doing this? Is this the right thing to focus on? Product engineering, which is building, design, which is part of like, how does this thing look and feel? So when we get to solutions, user research, which is essentially mind reading, data and AI and ML. We've had data for a long time, is morphing into data engineering, and product marketing and storytelling. If you can get these 6 skill sets either in one person or 2 or 6 people, you can build 1,000-person teams to work on interesting problems for your company. And of course, you have to remember that orbiting this core team is go-to-market, customer support, the skin of this big, beefy Android, because you have to feel the market. And, those sales teams, those customer support teams talk to customers so much in a way that you can't. And if you mine their intelligence, you'll become much better at building a valuable company. So these are the core things. We go into a lot more things, but the shipyard framework is very important that people talk about that and we give people language for it. And the sharp problems framework is very important because it's a precursor to creating value. And, these are the fundamentals. We've had 40 years of technology, core software technology, and maybe like 60 years of silicon, right? From Fairchild to Intel and so on and so forth. And what happens is every 10 to 15 to 20 years, we get to a new technology level. So at the first level was just microchips. Okay, that was Intel. The second level was desktop computing. The next level was internet, HTTP, right? And internet protocols. And the next level has been artificial intelligence. In between, there are some mini boomlets like social,
Mobile,
and mobile, right?
That doesn't change the fundamentals here, how you operate.
They accelerated some things, but AI is like legit the next level. So it's like a stack of new technology. And every time that happens, we actually, if you pay attention, recreate everything again. There's some fundamental workflows at work and in leisure. At leisure, things like dating or sports and betting, those are the killer apps of leisure, right? And then the next in work, it's like, okay, communications is huge, right? That's the front desk to CEO. And then there's specialized workloads like the CFO and accounting and so on and so forth. Every time the technology level changes, recreate the entire world. We always do. And the book, Shipyard Team Sharp Problems, those are fundamentals. Regardless of the technology level, the skills, the listing you do to the book, you can apply. Now, in the book, we actually wrote a whole addendum on artificial intelligence and how it impacts everything we just wrote. We spent the last 9 months actually deepening that. Izzy and I see ourselves and the crew at Product Minders to the future of AI and software. We want to point in the right direction of where things are going so that people can waste less money, be more effective at making their teams better. And so if you go to the podcast, you go to Substack, you'll see us charting the course. I think it's very valuable. You should check it out. So, but these fundamentals remain. They'll never be out of fashion. And so that's why you should ingest that. Now, we can talk about the implications, and we're about to talk about the 3-speed problem, but I just want to make sure people understand the framing.
If you're enjoying LaunchPod, the best way you can show support is simple. Follow the show so you never miss an episode, leave us a quick review to help more product leaders find it, and share this episode with a friend or colleague who'd get value from it. Every follow, review, and share really helps us grow. On that front, I guess, if you have, let's take for granted people are, operating in that framework correctly and that they've got the great shipyard team. Obviously, the big enhancer, like you said, of the past couple of years has been this growth of artificial intelligence. And, AI comes in many flavors. For anyone who thinks it's brand new, past 2 or 3 years, you didn't start with ChatGPT. I mean, Watson goes back to the teens, and there's been there's been machine learning since the aughts. But there's more to it than that, right? You kind of lay out 5 flavors of AI. You can go into it or not.
No, I do. I really want to. Look, if you were a civilian, keep scrolling. You can call it AI all you want, right? But if you think about it, artificial intelligence it's a meaningless word. It doesn't mean anything. And, even the word we call AGI, artificial intelligence, is also meaningless because most 99.9% of you can't tell me what it means. They define it. And actually, you can't define artificial intelligence. So what I ask builders, software executives, product people to do is to use different, more compelling and clear words to think about artificial intelligence, because if you can change your language, you can change how you think about it. And so one of the things that Product Man we've done is to use the framework of new capabilities. If we say technology level has changed, it makes sense that there are new capabilities that didn't exist before that have come about. But what are they? Saying artificial intelligence doesn't elucidate what does, or actually clouds it, and people can talk for 4 hours about AI and talk about different things. So what is AI? What are the new capabilities of artificial intelligence? There are 5 things we've identified that are net new, or net new in the form, based on transformer-based large language models, or what I call large media models, that have come about in the last 3 to 5 years. The first one is content generation and transformation. This is everything from make a marketing newsletter to generate code to Sora to generate video and images and so on and so forth, to Nano Banana. LLMs can understand us even imperfectly, the same way humans can understand each other imperfectly with bad grammar and slang or whatever. And it can create things that approach very skilled people, right? That's one. It's new. It's not new. We've tried this for many, many years. It's new. And so if you think about it that way, you can build new products on that capability alone. You can measure how good it is at doing that alone. Each of these things has its own metrics, which is really cool, because then it's beyond just artificial intelligence. The next one is natural language interaction. I can't tell you how long I've worked on natural language input and output. Microsoft has a long history of pen computing, voice computing, acquisitions, Dragon, naturally speaking, blah, 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 blah. This is the first time it's really good, because the human brain is really good at this stuff. And so everything we did before LLMs sucked, right? Even Google transcription was 90% for a very long time. It got stuck with machine learning technology. So that's net new. Whisper, all these things. The next one is information analysis and data synthesis. You can throw a snowflake planet's worth of data to an AI. If you have the right compute, it will understand it. And understand it without you having to clean it up as much as possible. This is also net new. The fourth one is personalization. AI, and I did this at Typeform, AI can literally personalize and understand 8 billion people and give them exactly what they want. This is new. It's a little terrifying, actually, because if you think you're in the ad industry and so on, you're salivating. You are, at Typeform, if I'm the other companies, if I got away with sort of mapping people into like a 4x4 16 quadrant and saying, people are in this quadrant, I'm going to make the software behave like this. People are in this quadrant, I'm going to make, if I recognize it, I'm going to make the software behave like this. And this is the kind of thing people like me did, right? Personalization was coarse. With AI, you can go so granular that no 2 human beings will see the same response on anything, anytime, anywhere else. So power, also terrifying. Then this last one is autonomy, right? Autonomy is important because this has been a holy grail. When we talk about robots, robot dogs, we talk about all this sci-fi stuff, what we're really talking about is autonomy. Is you feed a thing, an intelligence, a lot of data, and they can go off and make decisions and come back with results. That's also net new. Say, every conversation AI, and you say these 5 things, or which one of these 5 things, and you have this conversation with your team, yourself, if you mutter to yourself, or your boss or the board, you will have stronger conversations immediately. That's our gift to people who are listening, because I think it'll change your life.
Hopefully everyone wrote that all down, because I've definitely found just being able to elucidate with a better language has helped make stronger product decisions. So I recommend it. All right. Now the big thing. This is the peek behind the curtain a little bit, because we've been, as Oji and I said, we've been around the country talking to product leaders and talking about this 3-speed problem. So, AI has done revolutionary things, but, the killer app really from the beginning everyone looked at, or at least, I don't know, maybe I did. We talked about this. Code makes just sense. It's deterministic at some level. You can look at it. It's functional. It's easy to understand if you know the right things. It seems like AI was built for that, but that's only part of delivering great software products. So hence gives us, the thing that you and Esne have been talking about a lot lately, which is this 3-speed problem. Maybe lay it out for us. It starts with product, ends with go to market. You got engineers in the middle. What's the problem here, man?
Yeah. So by the way, there's a whole keynote we did at industry, which is somewhere online, so people can, if they want an extended take on this, they can get to it. So the AI capability, to eat my own dog food, that we're really talking about is content generation. Now, content generation is one of those things on the AGI scale where AI has gotten really good, sometimes better than humans. It's still kind of annoying the way it composes it and M dashes and stuff like that, but it's really good because it takes like the whole knowledge of the internet to generate something for you, which is better than most humans can do. But this has set up a new conflict in the core unit of software development. Now, what is the core unit of software development? It is the squad, the team that makes stuff. We've talked a little bit about the shipyard team, which is sort of a new way to think about what that team looks like, the skills it has, how it works together. But the core limiting function of our teams for the longest time, maybe 20 years, 25 years, has been the speed of engineering, right? Everything we've done from waterfall to agile has all been to optimize slow engineering. Even the fact that in a company, a technology company, most of the headcount is developers is because of the rate of development. So if you're following along, there are three core things that you have to do to make valuable software and then create a valuable business. The first is you have to define markets and customers, find their problems, listen to them, read their minds, synthesize a new solution to the workflow problems they have, design it, boom. First part.
I got this right to jump in. I gotta be honest. Sometimes when you say things, it sounds a lot. Simply like, oh, that's all we gotta do. But that one there is like, oh, that's all. You just have to read their minds. And oh God, it's amazing. We have anyone who's ever designed anything decent. Like that's a pretty high bar. Think back to the 5-10x better thing. That really is it though. If you want a fast growing company that's going to grow and really, be able to hyper grow like companies are looking to, that is the bar. Like it sounds difficult because it is, but
it is. Well, this is a soul of, people keep asking what do product managers do? Well, that is what we do, right? We read customer minds, we read market mind, we pay attention to where people have pain, and depending on the technology level, we compose a new solution that accelerates them better than they did in the past. And because we do that correctly, when we do that correctly, people pay us and make our companies rich, right? And then we take all the externalities of software development, which is, like zero marginal cost. If we get to 1 million people, we make a lot more money. And that's how technology companies, this is why the richest people in the world, technology companies, they build it on the back of good product managers. Now, that's the first part. And it's very hard. And actually, 90% of companies miss it. This is important. Most companies can't actually get around building a great product. Every great product you see, there are 9 that tried the same thing that died. So this is a huge leverage point. Well, let's not belabor it too much. In the middle, once you figure out a solution, how its form and function should be, you build it in engineering, you write code. Now, in the past, code has been static. You build a back end, you build a front end, you write static code, you make it complicated to handle scale, to handle errors, to handle security, to handle all the ways that users can screw up software. And then you get it right, hopefully. And then on the backside of that, you make the software get into the hands of customers. So you do all kinds of things. You do storytelling, you do marketing, sales, and so on and so forth. Those are the 3 things that make a valuable technology company. What we're saying is that the middle, which used to be the limiting factor, is over the next 10 years going to accelerate by 5 and then 10x, maybe more, right? The other day, I think Claude, in an experimental session, held enough of its attention to remake Slack in 35 hours in one shot. They rebuilt Slack. Okay. So think about what's possible in 2, 3 years, 4, 5 years, right? You can build entire products. By the way, you can't actually do that easily. You have to put rules and tell it exactly how all these things work, and it can do it. If you say go build Slack, it won't do it for you. You have to be very clever about how you do that. And even when it does that, it's still like first draft. You still need real developers, but that's still incredible. So this middle is going to accelerate very fast. Now the question is, and the why it's called a 3-speed problem is, again, conception and solution, build, go to market. Those are the 3 speeds. And what's going to set up is a conflict. If the product management and design doesn't accelerate, it's going to log jam on the capacity to build. If the go-to-market doesn't accelerate, it's going to log jam on the capacity to build. So this is an inversion of a problem we used to have. So over the next 5 to 10 years, maybe shorter, most teams in the economy, especially in an advanced economy like the United States, have to figure out how to impedance match these 3 levers for growth. And what we talk about is how to do that and all the different ways you can do that. We definitely have to speed up our customer market divination. We definitely have to speed up GTM because this thing is going to go. And we talk a lot about how to do that, how to think about it.
It might fully logjam building, right? Like let's say product can't keep up. The worst case scenario is not actually potentially that engineering has nothing to do and they just sit there twiddling their thumbs. It's that they just keep doing anyway. And you get all sorts of half-baked features that maybe don't solve real problems.
But doing what? Let me give you if you have a ship with a warp speed drive,
right,
and you're pointing at 360 degrees of space, if you go fast in the wrong direction, you've just killed yourself.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is the worst case scenario is not that engineering stops because they're log jammed. It's that they're in a rocket ship going warp speed the wrong direction and they hit
and they never
a
stop.
star.
Who has ever made an engineering team stop?
No, I mean, I think what you were talking about when we were in Austin or Dallas, you were bringing up the team where the CEO started vibe coding something and they released it and they got the CRO on board to start selling it, and the freaking thing just didn't work. And so they were pushing this thing out into market because that's the risk of going fast without the right direction.
100%. 100%. No, it is actually like harmful, but I will say this. Actually, even without speeding up product management, people can start to spend this smorgasbord of capacity. Teams that are definitely looking at me right now with side eyes thinking, what's smorgasbord? We have not seen a smorgasbord, but it will happen. Trust me. If you have a good CTO, it will happen. But even before you speed up, you should. There are also creative ways. All this tech that we keep yapping about, we can rewrite it faster. Just start afresh. Build it on AI first backend that you've been trying to go from, we went from monoliths to microservices and back to some micro monoliths.
Back and forth.
You can restart this stuff because you're going to need a new code base anyway that's very model aware to do that. You can spend that capacity on refinement, right? Make your product like a jewel. Every pixel looks beautiful. Every moment is a reward. You can do that. You could spend that capacity on experimentation. So not products, but making multiple iterations of something faster than you could ever in the past. So that now instead of like making testing with customers, you make 10 times, you test each of your customers and the one they like goes forward and you don't have any lag in customer adoption. There are actually creative ways to use that capacity today without increasing the speed. But eventually those things get tired. Those things get boring for engineers. And frankly, what we really need to do is make the decision-making, the direction finding faster. And I think that will make everyone more satisfied.
We've talked about this. We've seen teams doing this or starting to. One team I talked to has picked up the practice of, whereas they used to take 2 weeks to do a design sprint and kind of come, over 2 weeks, they'd work with designers and product and other things. In 2 weeks, you would have one, flat file Figma prototype. I use air quotes for the prototype because there's a picture. It's a nice picture. But now they're talking about what they've instead done is they've basically looked at what could we really do here, and they will take a couple hours each to go through and kind of use one of the many vibe coding tools to prototype quickly an iteration of an idea and come out with 8 takes on it, and in an hour they have 8 fairly functional takes, and they actually will ship that to a small live kind of alpha group who will test it. They'll get feedback, and so they're able to go to engineering with ideas that are they're not coding the final product. Like you said, you still need engineers here, but they're speed of ideation, but also their ability to try riskier things and throw away the trash and find the nuggets of gold. They've been able to, the CPO said like 20x their velocity. I don't know if I'm like 20x.
No, that is my favorite version of solving the 3-speed problem. I want your listeners to pay attention to the beats of that solution because it's very clever. You listen to customers, well, you don't like go to the nth degree, right? So that's a speed up right there because going to 80-90% of certainty is faster than going to 95-99% of certainty. And then you take that knowledge and instead of like writing a PRD, you write an app. And maybe in certain cases, you write 6 apps, right? Now the app is a PRD, but now you can do it in code versus write it. And don't tell your engineers that you'll ever ship this stuff because they'll get mad at you and then they'll start fighting you and nothing will ever get. And then watch this, you ship it to willing guinea pigs, right? Because there are always been willing guinea pigs in your audience who are like, give me, if you have a good product.
Everyone wants the newest, the fastest, the bestest.
Right. And so in the first phase, you've now done a ship cycle. You've done a full ship cycle. It's super fast. And because you are working on volume, customers are whittling down what works for you, right? Now, in the old way, you had to do a lot of divination and pass it through an expensive build process. And at the end, you could still be wrong. But in this one, you're working out wrongness very quickly. And then when customers, by the way, small set of customers will not tell you everything you need to know. Like you could still have a small set of customers like something and the end fail. It happens all the time. At Twitter, it happened all the time. When you get to 1 million is very different than when you got to 10. But then your engineers get a prototype, hopefully in the same stack they use to go forward, if you're smart, right? So they don't have to throw it away completely. And then they put force behind the thing. The engineering team can then spin off 100 different variations of that one, right? but it's now more in line. It's like increasing accuracy. That's one of my favorite versions of how to tackle this 3-speed problem.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to this clearly going on. I think there's the 4th speed problem, which is there's only so many hours in the day and you're a busy man. Oji, thank you for coming on and kind of talking about these important topics because, while we could do 3 more episodes and go deeper and deeper, I think this gives at least the framework to start thinking about it. Oji's on LinkedIn. So check him out. It's a great set of info though. And hopefully this you guys the first kind of way to start thinking about this new world. It's going to be a long adoption period. As much as everyone thinks it's going quickly, AI, depending on industries, could be longer or shorter, but you got to start driving it. But sharp problems never go away. Oji, as always, thank you, my friend, for joining. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we can talk again soon.
Thanks, Jeff. It's been a pleasure too. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.